Part 2 of lecture 3. So let's discuss now, having discussed about control structures. Now in this lecture, we are going to focus on the selection structure and how that is supported in Python, right? Under that, the first thing is if structure. So let's proceed to that. So the if structure in Python, if is a keyword. So the syntax of the if structure of Python will be like this. So we have if and a particular some expression. If is a keyword, and after this expression, see very importantly, there's a colon here. The two dots is a colon that is shown in red color here for basically to display it prominently. After that, you have a few statements here. Statement 1, 2, maybe up to some number n. Now, this is what we call the if structure, and actually the if structure by itself is although it spans a number of lines, you can see a number of lines may be there in the Python code, but it is considered a single statement. Actually, it's somewhat different from a single statement, like let's say you write like a equals b plus 5 or something. So this is a Python statement by this, but it's a single, I mean, fairly simple, right? It's a single line statement. So when you, in comparison, this doesn't look like something like that, right? But still it is like a one single unit, or one single statement, but it is because it spans a number of lines and it actually belongs, the whole thing belongs together. We can call it a compound statement, right? Because it has some single thing into it. So the whole thing belongs together as a unit, right? And in this case, this compound statement actually has one clause, which is this one, right? And how does it work? Okay, so before that, this clause has here, because it's only one thing that we are checking, that is why we call it one clause, right? And the top part is called the header, and the statements, multiple statements that are here, sometimes referred to as suit, or you can call it the if body. So if this is the if header and this is the if body, and sometimes this is referred to as suit also. That basically these things belong to the if header, right? And how does it work actually? Okay, this is very important to understand, right? How does this work? This suit or these statements will get executed if this expression is evaluated as true. Now, what do we mean by true here? Does it always have to be a Boolean value is true? Well, yes, of course, for the Boolean true value, this is correct, but it need not be exactly the true Boolean value itself. It can be anything else that can be interpreted as true. Anything else that can be interpreted or evaluated as true. So what are those values? Any non-zero numeric value. If you have here this, if this expression result in a Boolean value which is true, yes, then this gets executed. Otherwise, if this expression results in a number, a numeric thing, an integer, a floating point, or a complex number, whatever, which is non-zero, which is not zero, then again, this is considered as a true, right? In other words, if that numeric expression is equal to numerical is 0, then this expression is false, right? If that numeric value is equal to 0, of course, that expression is false. Is that the only thing? No, you can even have a string here, or this expression can result in a string, or this expression can result in some kind of a sequence like a list. In such cases, the true result is a true value can happen if that string or that sequence or that list or whatever is non-empty, right? It means it's not a zero length. That means a string of non-zero length or list or some sequence of non-zero length then also this expression will be evaluated as true. So for any of those things, these statements 1 to up to n will get executed. We basically say the suit will get executed, right? And very important to see now up to this point in our discussions, we have just listed in our Python programs the statements one after the other in a like the straight manner without any of what is known as this indentation. Now here's the first time we come across indentation. What is indentation? It means simply writing this. This is the alignment, vertical alignment wise. In a code, you should basically see this if it has this vertical line, right? Down there vertically. But these statements inside this are all shifted to the right, right? So this is what we call indentation. This is indentation. That means all the suit, the if body, is actually all the instructions, all the statements in the if body or the suit are indented to the right, shifted to the right by some amount. And this is how you indicate, you basically tell, okay, whether a particular statement like statement n belongs to this if compound statement or not, right? So let's suppose that due to whatever reason, let's say this statement is actually shifted here, statement n, then that does not belong to the if structure. It's actually another statement, right, outside that. So that's basically the importance of indentation. So, and unlike in other programming languages like in C or Java, if you want to have a number of statements inside a if clause, what you would have to do is you have a list curly brace here, and at the end you have curly brace like this, right? So if you have that, this indentation, even you don't need to have indentation in the case of C and Java, but various editors, the IDEs that you use will indent these things anyway, but that is not required if you have this when you use these curly braces to indicate blocking. So that means this particular whole block belongs to that, right? So if you have curly brace opening and closing brace, that indicates grouping. That is what in some programming languages, so in languages like Pascal, those days you would have begin and end. So you have a begin part here and end here to indicate it is the beginning and end of the if part, right? If body. But in Python, we don't have any of those things. So then how does it work? Simply by indentation. So this is vertically different than this outside, right? So therefore, it's very important to understand and include whatever statement that you need to be inside the if clause to be indented correctly. Now, if you want to do something else, after that, if you want to say, okay, print something and, right? So this one is not indented, you can see. So this print is at the same level as this if, right? So therefore, the compound if statement only goes up to this point, right? This is the only part of, so this print is another one, right? It's outside that, it's a different statement, right? So I hope you get the idea. So indentation is the way Python uses to group or identify suits and clause headers like that, indentation, right? All right, so let's so when you say a compound statement, it means it can have one or more clauses. A clause is basically a header and a suit. In the if clause, of course, we had only a single header and a suit. A suit is a group of indented statements, right? Controlled by a clause. Okay. So if there are multiple clauses, of course, then all the headers will be at the same indentation level, and each header begins with a keyword and ends with a colon, right? Colon is this, right? And yeah, basically like that. So we will come across, so the example, we just started the simplest, one of the simplest control structure, which is the single if statement, had only a single clause. But shortly, very soon, we will see multiple clause compound statements like if else. Right. Now that we know this thing, let's take an example. This example is from the notes, example 4.1. Develop a program which accepts a number, which is consider that it is an amount of money to be paid by a customer in rupees. It is to be entered from the keyboard. If the amount is greater than or equal to 1,000 rupees, a 5% discount is given to the customer. Then display the final amount that the customer has to pay. Right. So this is a example 4.1 in your notes. And so here's the solution. Actually, if you read the notes carefully, you will notice that we also have given something that's looks like a solution, but here we indicated the question mark because just like the code example given in the notes, here also the program 4.2 is actually not correct. It has a particular problem. It has a bug, right? But let's discuss this first, right? So, so program 4.2 in your code. So the question mark indicates that in the notes also we introduced that program 4.2 saying that it is intended to solve the given problem, the example. And basically we discussed that, but at the end we tell, okay, there is a bug and try to fix it. So let's see what this program is. Actually, we say modified here because we have modified a little bit, not in any drastic way. It's exactly the same how it works, the way how it works with the one given in the notes. The modification is done to shorten some of the things so that this program will fit into one slide, right? And each statement will fit into one line. So we have modified slightly to basically so that we can present it nicely here on the slides. That is the only modification, right? So otherwise, no change. It works in the same way as it is shown in your notes. So first line, amount equals float input enter amount. So how does this work? You know how input works. So input function will basically read something from the keyboard. And while before it actually reads from the keyboard, this prompt is displayed to the user. So when the user see enter amount, user can then hit type the something, and it is expected that it is a number, a value in rupees, right? And this input function is actually going to read it from the keyboard and return it as a what? As a string. As a string, right? That value is going to be returned as a string. That so we cannot actually use that string as a for computation. So we want to convert into a number, and we want to convert it to a float number, right? And so we use the float function because this is a amount of money, maybe rupees and cents are involved, right? And also, please understand what I mean by when you say this input function returns a string and we want to convert into float, I mentioned, but remember, it's not exactly correct. It's not that particular string that was returned. That string is a string object that will remain as a string object. What we do is actually the float. What the float function does is it will create a float object whose value will be equal to the value as a number that is actually meant by that string, right? So whatever the user input as a number will be available as a floating point number. That's what finally happens. So the variable amount here is going to refer to that floating point value, right? That's what this whole line means. If you go to the next one line, it says if amount, this means greater than or equal to, right? Greater than or equal to. So because in the keyboard of any, we don't have this symbol in the keyboard. So greater than or equal to is written as like this. Greater than symbol followed by the equal symbol. Remember that we don't type like this. We don't type equal, greater than like this. This will give you either a different meaning or a syntax error, depending on whether this is valid or not, right? Because sometimes this may be some other thing, but generally this is not, that is not the way to write greater than or equal to. It's simply, it should be like this, greater than or equal to, right? So here you can see the amount, we compare whether it's greater than or equal to 1000. And you can see this, the colon is there, and say discount equals amount multiplied by, so this is the multiplication, and you multiply it by 0.05. So what does this, what is happening here? We said in our problem that if the amount is greater than or equal to 1000 rupees, a 5% discount is given. So that is the discount is being computed here. That is why we have the name here, discount is equal to amount multiplied by 0.05, which is actually, this is that 5%, right? 5%. Okay. And you can see this discount is actually indented. So if it's this along this line, but you can see this is indented to the right. So therefore this discount is inside the if suit, right? So this is the suit, inside the suit. So that is something you need to notice. And the next line also like that, because that is also indented like this. Next one is say final equals amount minus discount. So what are these discount, amount, final? These are all variables, right? So here is now a new variable. We introduce saying amount minus discount, because actual amount that now the customer has to pay would be this, because you have to give a 5% discount. After that, you deduct that, subtract that amount of discount from the amount, you get the final, right? So so then what do we see? That's all. And you can see next line, this print statement is now aligned with this if, which means what? It is, this print is does not belong to the if. It's the one. So the whole compound if statement is this whole thing. That's all. So this is the if compound statement. After that, print is at the same level as if. Therefore, it is simply outside that if condition. Okay. Now, what does this print statement do? There are some special symbols here, so let's try to explain that. Now, how many arguments does the print statement has inside the print function? There are 2 arguments, right? Because this is separated by comma. So this is the first argument. After that, after the comma, you have the second argument. So there are 2 arguments to the print function. First part is, I think you can, this is clear, right? First one, this is the second one, right? So first argument, it is clear, it's simply a string. So amount is will be displayed and with a space, normally with a space, because the comma separated set of things will be generally displayed with the space in between. And the second one is maybe a little bit complicated. What is the second argument of the print function? What does it tell? So it has actually 2 parts, which is separated by this ampersand, sorry, this percentage sign, percentage symbol. After the percentage symbol, you get the variable name amount, which is the one which we just here, right? And the value here, amount, okay? So what does this do actually? So the second argument actually asking print to display the value of this variable amount, right? And before the percentage symbol, whatever this is given here, right, tells the format, how to display that. So this formatting is coming from the C language standard input-output kind of functionality. So according to that, if you use inside quotation, something to say like percentage F, it means display a numerical value in floating point format. So we are telling actually for the print function to display the value of this variable amount. This F letter percentage and F tells it to display as a floating point number, because again, after the decimal value is important. But if you just say f only, you can try it out, right? You can change, you can remove this point to this to with and without. You can try. You will realize that without this dot 2, f will display the default, the normal, the standard way. It's displayed with some about 6 or 8 decimal points, right? After the decimal point, some 6 or 7 digits, it will display some value, which is actually not what we want. What we want is with 2 decimal points, right? After the 2 decimal values, after the decimal point, let's say like if it is 55 cents, maybe 55, right? Or if it is 75 cents, it's like 0.75, right? So we want to display the amount with 2 decimal places, right? So that's this 2. Dot 2 indicates that. Dot 2 indicates between the percentage symbol and the bit and f. If you indicate dot and 2, it tells print to display that floating point value with 2 decimal values, right? Or say 2 fraction points there. So that's basically how it works. So having explained that, now let's go to the, so I think it's easy to understand. What you are trying to do is display the value of the amount as a floating point value with 2 fractional points, right? Or 2 decimal points. Okay, next line. It says final amount is and final. So I think that you can easily understand even this function call for the print. It has 2 arguments because a single comma. This part is displayed as a text, right? After that, the value of final as a floating point number with 2 decimal places, right? That's what it did. Right. So now I hope you understand what it's supposed to be doing. Now, if you run this program, something interesting will happen. What is that? What does this question mark tell us? Now, what you will have, so I would actually ask you to type it exactly like this, so you can copy and paste from your notes and just run it. And you will notice that in some occasions, it will work correctly. But in some other occasions, it will not work correctly. There will be an error. So that is what is known as a bug, right? That means, I mean, a program must work for all input cases, right? Otherwise, there's no point in the program. Okay. Of course, sometimes depending on the input, you may want to have different behavior. Whatever the case, as expected, it must behave. It must work as expected. So what happens here is that for certain values, there will be a problem. For certain other values, it will work correctly. You will see nicely the output is displayed and all that. So, okay, that's where you need to find the bug and also fix that bug. Now, formatting, here for the first time, we discuss about some kind of formatting with print. But there are other ways of formatting output, formatting what you want to display on screen. And you can read section 8.6 in your notes to do other ways things also. Now, this operator, percentage operator, is one possible way, but also you can use str.format, also something called f-string formatting methods to format your output, right? So you can read on those later separately to understand other ways that you can format for your output. So, so your exercise is to find the bug in this program, and not only that, see how you can fix it. Okay. Right. So let's, with that, we conclude the part 2.